Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Bhagavad-Gita as it is, Chapter 7, Text 21, page 350. Yo yo yam yam tanum bhakta. Shraddha yar chitam ichati. Tasya tasya chalam shraddham. Tam eva vidahamyaham. Yo yo yam yam tanum bhaktim. Shradhayar chitam uttate. Tasya tasya chalam shradham. Tameva vidyahamyaham.
Yo yo yam yam tanum bhakta. Yo yo yam yam tanum bhakta. Shraddhaya architum ichchati. Shraddhaya architum ichchati. Tasya tasya chalam shraddham. Tasya tasya chalam shraddham. Tam eva vidadhami aham. Tam eva vidadhami aham.
Word for word. Yum yum. Whoever. Yum yum. Whichever. Tanum. Form of a demigod. Bhakta. Devotee. Shradhaya. With faith. Charitam. To worship. Ichati. Desires. Tasya. To him. Achalam. steady. Shraddham, faith. Tam, that. Eva, surely. Vidham, vidhami, give. Aham, I. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. I am in everyone's heart as super soul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make its faith steady so that he can devote himself to that particular deity. Please repeat. I am in everyone's heart as the super soul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his faith steady so he can devote himself to that particular deity. Purport. God has given independence to everyone. Therefore, if a person desires to have a material enjoyment and wants very seriously to have such facilities from the material demigods, Supreme Lord, as Super Soul, in everyone's heart, understands and gives facility to such persons. As the Supreme Father of all living entities, He does not interfere with their independence, but gives all facility so that they can fulfill their material desires. Some may ask why the all-powerful God gives facility to living entities for enjoying this material world, and so lets them fall into the trap of the illusory energy. The answer is that the Supreme Lord, as Super Soul, does not give such facility. There is no meeting to independence. Therefore, He gives everyone full independence. Whatever one likes, but His ultimate instruction we find in the Bhagavad-Gita. One should give up all other engagements and fully surrender unto Him. That will make man happy. Both the living entity and demigods are subordinate to the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the living entities cannot worship the demigod by his own desire, nor can the demigod bestow any benediction without the supreme will. As it is said, not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Generally, people are distressed in the material world, go to the demigods. They are advised in the Vedic literature. As they are advised in the Vedic literature, some persons want some particular thing, may worship such and such a demigod. For example, a diseased person is recommended to worship the sun god. A person wanting education may worship the goddess of learning, Saraswati. A person wanting a beautiful wife may worship the goddess Urma, the wife of Lord Shiva. In this way, there are recommendations in the Shastra, Vedic scriptures, for different modes of worship of different demigods. And because a particular living entity wants to enjoy a particular material facility, the Lord inspires him with a strong desire to achieve that benediction from that particular demigod so that he can successfully receive the benediction. The particular mode of the devotional attitude of the living entity toward a particular type of demigod is so arranged by the Supreme Lord. The demigod cannot infuse the living entity with such an infinity, but because he is the Supreme Lord, or the Super Soul, is present in the heart of all living entities, Krishna gives impetus to men to worship certain demigods. The demigods are actually parts of the universal body, Supreme Lord. Therefore, they have no independence. The Vedic literature stated, Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Super Soul, also is present within the heart of the demigods. Therefore, he ranges through the demigods to fulfill the desire of the living entity. Both the demigods and living entities are dependent on the Supreme Will, on the Supreme Will. They are not independent. Translation once again. I am in everyone's heart as Super Soul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod and make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to a particular deity. Om Argyanatramdasya Jana Jana Slakaya Sakshuritam Zena Tasme Shri Gurvina Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dantivan Vanchakopa Jubhyascha Kripasindu Ebacha Padnam Bhavneyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasudeva Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this idea of worshipping demigods, is Krishna sanctioning the worship of demigods? First of all, how many people in this room were worshipping demigods when they were a child? Many of them. People born in India or from Indian ancestry. How many people never heard of a demigod before they joined the Hare Krishna movement? I'm one of them. You never heard of demigod? So, of course, Krishna speaking 5,000 years ago, and the whole planet was Bharatvarsh, and everyone followed the Vedic culture. So demigod worship was not something unusual. But demigod worship is not something we understood or were brought up with as people in India. Even in Vrindavan today, most of the people, except for those in the Gaudiya Vaishnava or in the four Sampradayas, Brahma Sampradaya, the Kumar Sampradaya, the Lakshmi Sampradaya, and the Shiva Sampradaya, they all understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Other people who aren't in any Sampradaya, don't have a bona fide guru, worship demigods. And if you go to different shops, different stores in Lori Bazaar around Vrindavan, you'll see they have an altar in their shop, and usually it's some demigods they worship. They worship the demigods first thing in the morning to get some, so they can be successful in their business. So, not only in this chapter, chapter 7, but also in chapter 9, Krishna is again emphasizing about demigod worship. One minute. Anyway, chapter 9. Text number 25. Krishna says, those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors will go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings, and those who worship me will live with me. If one has any desire to go to the moon, sun, or other planets, one can attain the desired destination by following specific Vedic principles recommended for that purpose, such as the process technically known as Darsha Purnamasi. These are vividly described in the fruit of activities portion of the Vedas, which recommend the specific demigod, worship of demigod, situated in different heavenly planets. Similarly, one can attain the Pita planets by performing a specific yajna. Similarly, one can go to many ghostly planets and become a yaksha, raksha, Pichacha worship is called black arts or black magic. There are many men who practice this black art and they think that it is spiritualism, but such activities are completely materialistic. Similarly, for a devotee who worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead only achieves the planet Vaikuntha and Krishna Loka without a doubt. So, this is if you take birth, if you worship demigods, you can only go to the planet of demigods. Krishna says here, in these verses 5 to 25, that men of small knowledge worship the demigods. The fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship demigods go to the planet demigods. My devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. Unintelligent men who do not know me perfectly think I am the Supreme Personality Krishna, was impersonal before, and has now assumed this personality. Due to their small knowledge, they do not know my higher nature, which is imperishable and supreme. So this section of Bhagavad-Gita, chapter 20, verses 20 to 25, deal with demigod worship and the impersonalists, or the Mayavadis, misplaced surrender. So, for our education in the Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma was the first created being. He learned all the truths from the Supreme Lord. He performed tapasya. First he appeared on the lotus flower out of the navel of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. And he tried to search out the source of that lotus flower. So he went down, but he couldn't find out. Then he knew that he was supposed to create, he was the secondary creator, but he didn't know how he was going to do that. Then he heard the word tapa, and tapa, or tapasya, means penance. So he started meditation for 100 years, and then Lord Vishnu was pleased with him and came to him and shook his hand and imparted Vedic knowledge unto him. So in the Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma says, Goloka namni nijadamni tale chatasya devi mahesha hari dameshu teshu te pavava nitaya vijitasthayena govindamari pusha tamaha bhajami. Lowest of all is located Devi Dham, which is the mundane world, the material world. Next is Mahesh Dham, the abode of Lord Shiva. Above Mahesh Dham is Hari Dham, the abode of Hari, or Vaikuntha. And above all of them located Krishna's realm named Golok. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who's allotted the respective authorities to rule of those graded realms. So this is how the creation is put together. The people in the material world, the scientists and the different speculators, armchair speculators, probably called armchair speculators. They don't know anything about how the creation is taking place. They have imperfect senses, so they make different instruments to see what is going on in outer space, but they can't actually understand how the whole material and spiritual worlds are manifest, are existing. But Srimad Bhagavatam is very clear. If you read the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it's clear how the structure of this material world, and also Lord Chaitanya teaching to Sanatana Goswami, Chaitanya Charitamrita, about the Vaikuntha planets. And ultimately, we get the description of Golok Vrindavan, Chintamani Prakamashu Kalpaviksha. And that is the highest realm, is Golok Vrindavan. So, in the material world, we have the Earth planet. There's 14 planetary systems, or 14, 7 up and 7 down. And the Earth planet is in the middle of the upper 7. And so on this Earth planet, we are suffering pain, pleasure, happiness, distress. And according to our karma, we go to Yamaraj and judged according to what our next body will become. The demigods and the heavenly planets, they get there by their pious activities, and they don't. They stay there as long as their karma or results of their good pious credits remain, and then they come back to this Earth planet. So even the demigods are on Jambu Dweep, other planets. They're praying that they can take birth on this Earth planet, because in the Earth planet it's not too much enjoyment and not too much suffering. In the heavenly planets there's too much enjoyment, in all these planets there's too much suffering. And the middle planets, the Earth planet, is a moderation, and therefore one can take to devotional service. If there's too much enjoyment, places even in this world where it never gets cold, where the weather is always nice, like Hawaii and Puerto Rico and different places, it's very difficult to make people into devotees because they're always in an enjoying spirit. But so on this Earth planet, it's easier for people to take to Krishna consciousness. And so the demigods, they have so much enjoyment, and they stay there and drink somaras and enjoy for many hundreds and thousands of years. But it's a temporary position. So it's stating that if we worship different demigods, you can get different benefits. In the 2nd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 3, text 7, it gives a list of all the demigods you can worship. So I won't read the whole thing, I could read a few. One who desires a long span of life should worship the demigod known as the Ashwini Kumars. One who desires a good wife should worship the Asaras. One who desires domination over others should worship Lord Brahma. one who desires tangible fame should worship the personality Godhead. And one who desires a good bank balance should worship the demigod Varuna. So we better make that a public announcement. Because right now, people are having trouble with their bank balance. So you can worship Varuna if you want to settle your money problems. But ultimately it says one should worship Lord Vishnu or his devotee for spiritual advancement and knowledge. And one who desires the domination over a kingdom or an empire should worship Manus. One who desires victory over the enemy should worship demons. One who desires sense gratification should worship the moon. But one who desires nothing of material enjoyment should worship the Supreme Personality Godhead. And this is a famous verse, the karma sava karma va, moksha karma dharanadi, divrena bhakti yogena, yajita purusham param. A person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of all material desire, without material desire, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the Personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada says, at the end of the purport, anyone, whether akarma or sakarma or moksha karma, should worship the Lord with great expedience. This implies that bhakti-yoga may be perfectly administered without any mixture of karma and jnana. As the unmixed sun rays are very forceful, therefore called tira, similarly, unmixed bhakti-yoga of hearing and chant, etc., may be performed one and all, regardless of all inner motives. So demigod worship is never sanctioned, and it's not anything that we want. So the reason, but this verse says that the Supreme Lord facilitates those who want to worship demigods. I'm in everyone's heart a super soul. And he says, as soon as one desires to worship demigods, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to that particular deity. So why is it that the Lord would do that? And the answer is because we have independence. We, Jiva, we are part and parcel of Krishna. We are spiritual living entities. But at one point or another in the creation or in the time factor, somehow we had a desire to misuse our independence. Because when we had the desire, then the soul is cast into the material world, thrown into the material world. And as soon as one comes into the material world, one develops a false ego, ahankara, and thinks that I am this body, and I belong to this country, and this is my family. So many things, false names and false forms. Whole world is going on under this misconception, false names and false forms. So this is the reason we came in the material world, because we misused our independence. If we didn't have independence, if the Lord was always controlling us, then there would be no question of love. If you want to love someone, then you have, that is your choice. If you are forced to love someone, then that's not really love. That is more like a punishment. So Krishna wants us to come back to him more than we want to come back to him. So whatever you give to Krishna, if you give 10 rupees to Krishna, then Krishna will give you 10 million times more than that. So Krishna is always there, as it says here, as the father is very loving to his child. So Krishna wants us to come to him. He doesn't want us to worship demigods. But if people want to worship demigods and misuse their independence, then he doesn't interfere with that either. But the demigods cannot give anything on their own. It says that not a blade of grass moves without the sanction of the Lord. So demigods are not independent. They're also under the control of the material nature, three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. So therefore, the father trains his son to act in a certain way. When a child is born from the age of 1 to 5, he is to be fondled, not instructed, because 1 to 5 children don't have intelligence. But when they get to 5, the intelligence starts to develop. Therefore, they should be instructed from the age of 5 to 16. And then after the age of 16, the father should treat his son, make friendship with his son, and not try to instruct him too much anymore. So the child has, in the Krishna conscious movement or any religion, people try to train their children in that religious faith or that kind of religion, hoping their children will grow up and remain in that. But we see even in our movement that people try their best to make their children Krishna conscious, but when they grow up and get entangled in the material world, they don't always become full-time devotees, or they may be devotees, some kind of devotees, or may not be devotees at all. So it's because they have independence. So you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So we can train our children the best we can to become Krishna conscious, but we can't force them. After some time, if they're not interested in Krishna consciousness, then we did our best, but then somehow Super Soul has to guide them. They have to get kicked a little bit by the material energy until they come to realize that they can't enjoy in the material world, and that Krishna consciousness is the best way of life. So people who come to Krishna consciousness after they've tried to enjoy the material world, it's easier for them to stay in Krishna consciousness. But those who didn't come to Krishna, were born in Krishna consciousness, somehow the material desires overwhelm them, and they think they can enjoy by taking drugs and having illicit sex and gambling and going to movies and doing so many nonsense things. But until they get kicked by Maya and are frustrated with all these things, then they can't appreciate Krishna consciousness to its fullest extent. But this is not in all cases, but in many cases. Some cases, the child has grown up in the association, good association, and he stays in good association, and he stays in the temple and does service and worships and accepts the spiritual master and gets initiated and spends his whole life in Krishna consciousness. Where other people don't do that, but they may come back to Krishna consciousness at one point in their life. So here the demigod worship, Krishna says he's in everyone's heart. Sarvasya chaham ridi shani vishto, matasmatir gyanapalam cha. That I am in everyone's heart, from me comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. Ishvara sarabhutanam, videshu arjuna tishtati, brahmayam sarabhutani, yantarudani mayaya. See, Lord, is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, as directing the wandering of all living entities, who are seated as on a machine made of material energy. So the living entity and super soul are there in the body of all living entities. It's compared to a chariot. The chariot is driven by 5 horses, which are the 5 senses, and the reins are the mind, and the driver is the intelligence, and the passenger is the soul, or the living entity. So the senses, it's very important. Prabhupada says, over and above chanting Hare Krishna, one must control his senses. So the senses are like horses, the wild horses, and if they're not controlled, then they will take us here and there and everywhere. And most people in the material world are being driven by their senses and have no idea that they should control their senses. They eat anywhere and everywhere. They read everything and anything. They watch television, go to movies, all kinds of nonsense things. They have no idea about Krishna consciousness or controlling their senses. But Rupa Goswami says, Vachavegam, Manasakodavegam, Jivavegam, that the very important that we control our mind, the urges of the tongue, belly, genitals, the power of anger, all these things. If one can control his senses, then he can become a spiritual master. So controlling the senses, especially controlling the mind, this is very important. The Avanti Brahman in 11th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, says that all his problems were due to his mind. So all our problems are due to our mind. So the mind has to be trained in the proper way. And by reading Bhagavad-Gita and reading Srimad Bhagavatam, reading Srila Prabhupada's books, then we can understand with our mind, with our intelligence, that how we should live our lives. And we should not be misled. So Krishna is saying that he gives facility for people to worship demigods because they want that. But because he's the super soul in everyone's heart. But ultimately, he says, Prabhupada says, his ultimate instruction we find in the Bhagavad-Gita, that one should give up all other engagements and fully surrender unto Krishna. That will make men happy. So everybody in the material world is looking to be happy. But they're looking in the wrong places. There are so many advertisements. If you buy this gizmo, you buy this gadget, you get this computer, you get this cell phone, you get this car, you get this, that, wash machine, you get everything available, then you'll be happy. But the rich people who have 10 cars and 10 washing machines and 10 everythings are not happy because they want to have more and more. And then we see the people who are most famous, movie stars, actors, they end up committing suicide. So everyone is glorifying these people and wish they could be like these people, but ultimately we see they're not happy and they become so depressed that they commit suicide. So in the material world, you can't be happy. It's like trying to put out a fire by putting fuel in it. It just becomes bigger and bigger. So lust, greed, and anger, that's kama, lobha, are the 3 gates to hell. Lust, greed, and anger. Kama, lobha, what's that? Krodha. Kama, lobha, krodha. These are the 3 gates to hell. So ultimately, we should not be distracted by demigod worship. But at the same time, we should not disrespect the demigods. Krishna has 50 qualities. Krishna has 64 qualities. The living entity has 50 qualities, but those 50 qualities are only manifest to the pure devotee in full. Then there's 5 more qualities which may be seen in Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma, or highly exalted demigods. And then there's 5 more qualities which are there in Lord Narayan. And then there's 4 more qualities which Krishna has, which nobody has. So the living entity, the jiva, whether he's a human being or a demigod, is always subordinate to the Supreme Personality Godhead. Jivar Subhai Krishna Nichadas. We're eternal servants of Krishna. And that is there in everyone's heart. And this is what we're trying to teach people, that they should all take the Krishna consciousness and not waste their lives in trying to accumulate so many useless things which will not help them. When one comes in the material world, we have nothing. And we may accumulate so many things, and we may have a nice family, wife, family, and everything else, but at the time of death, you can't take anything with you. So, Lord Chaitanya instructed Rupa Goswami for 10 days at Ashrameta Ghat in Allahabad. And he said that there are anarthas in the heart of the living entity. And those anarthas mainly deal with wanting material enjoyment, wanting liberation, and Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhu in the purport also being embarrassed by the material energy. We see that a man works very hard to make money to support his family, but as soon as he can't get any money, his family rejects him, they neglect him, and he's embarrassed to the end of his life. And when we're young and beautiful, we're very happy. When we get old, we're no longer beautiful, we become embarrassed. So in so many ways, the material energy is embarrassing us in so many different ways. But as devotees, we should transcend it all. And Krishna told Arjuna from the very beginning of the Bhagavad-Gita that he should not be influenced by the flowery words of the Vedas, because the Vedas mainly deal with the fruitive activities and going to heavenly planets. So we should not be allured by these things, or thinking that going anywhere except to try to get out of the material world. Lord Chaitanya said that he's praying to the Lord, somehow or other, I've come in this material world, but please fix me up as an atom at your lotus feet. So, and also Lord Chaitanya said, Nadananda Nadananda Sundarim Kavita Vagadishware Mavajamani Jamanishware Bhagavat Bhakti Haitiki Chai. I don't want wealth, I don't want a beautiful wife, I don't want many followers, I only want your pure devotional service, birth after birth. So the devotee doesn't even ask to get out of the material world, but he wants to always be engaged in devotional service. So everybody wants wealth, everybody wants a beautiful wife, everyone wants followers. But when we give up these things, that is when we're free from our anarthas. So these stages, we go through these different stages. We have faith, we can study, we take initiation, bhajana kriya, then anartha nivritti. We follow the 4 regulated principles: no meeting, no gambling, no intoxication, no illicit sex. That's the beginning of anartha nivritti. And when we no longer desire wealth, women, or followers, then we can take to a higher platform of devotional service, begin to develop our love for Krishna, and come to the level of bhav, from nistha, and then asakti, ruchi, and aruchi, asakti, and bhav, and ultimately the highest goal is prema pumartha mohan, that we develop our pure love for Krishna, prema bhakti. But prema bhakti can only be delivered in the heart of someone who's free from these anarthas or unwanted things. As long as our heart is hard, it says in the second canto that the heart is steel framed. And if one chants the holy name of the Lord and ecstatic symptoms are not there, or the tears are not coming to the eyes, shivering is not there, words faltering, we know that we still have a heart problem. Sometimes people ask, how's your health? Well, I tell them that I have a heart problem. And that means I have a steel-framed heart. That I can't cry for Krishna, so that means your heart is hard. And only if the heart becomes soft can one develop his love for Krishna. And the heart will not become soft as long as we're desiring sense gratification or desiring liberation or embarrassed by this material world. So the heart has to become soft by the practice of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. That's a gradual process, and Lord Kapila Dev says we have to hear. Shravanam, hearing is more important for a very long time. So this is why we have Bhagavatam class, Bhagavad-Gita class, Prabhupada's books, Prabhupada's lectures, kirtans, so we can hear. So especially in Vrindavan, we should not absorb, we should not do anything but bhajan. Mayapur is the mercy dham, and Vrindavan is the sweetness dham or Madhurya dham. So living in Mayapur, one gets free from offenses, so he becomes eligible to live in Vrindavan. And when the Vrindavan is only meant for bhajan. So when one retires or one preaches for many years and is ready to retire, he can come and stay in Vrindavan and do bhajan for the rest of his life. It means 24 hours a day. It says ultimately everyone should utilize their time 24 hours a day hearing about name, form, qualities, pastimes of Krishna, because this is all absolute. So we should not waste our time in the internet looking at mundane things or hearing mundane sound vibrations. We should utilize our time to read all of Srila Prabhupada's books, utilize our time, hear lectures, hear kirtan, engage in kirtan. In Vrindavan, Prabhupada wanted all the devotees in the temple to do 8 hours service and attend Mangal Artik. He wanted everyone to attend Noon Artik and Sundar Artik. But now we don't require that. But in the beginning, he wanted everybody to be fully engaged, because an idle mind is the devil's workshop. If you're not fully engaged in Krishna consciousness, then your mind can take you anywhere and everywhere. You can easily be misled from the neophyte position. So therefore, Krishna is allowing people to worship demigods because they want that. But ultimately he says, Sarva Dharma Parichija Mamekam Sarnamanja Ham Tvam Sarvabhavnijo Moksha Shami Ma Suchanaha. They just surrender unto me, give up all other paths, including Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. In this way, Krishna will protect us from all sinful reactions, and we can go back to Godhead even in this life. So our time is up. Anybody have any comments or questions? This man always has a question, and then number 2 man always has a question. But he may have a statement, not a question.
A comment and a question.
Comment and a question.
You used the word embarrassing.
Wait, use the microphone. Is it working?
You used the word embarrassed.
Oh, it's not on.
It's on.
Got talking.
You used the word embarrassed by material miseries.
Material nature.
But by material nature. And this is one of the unusual meanings of the word embarrassed, which means overwhelmed by. So the living entity is overwhelmed by material nature. So that was the meaning. There are other uses of the word embarrassed in that particular context. But my question was, the demigods are living entities, and they have free will. they are in charge of various functions in the material world, and with their free will, do they ever make mistakes?
He wants to know if the demigods make mistakes. Well, if you read the 6th canon of Srimad Bhagavatam, which you're studying in the Bhagavatam class, we'll see the Lord Indra made one mistake. He didn't offer respect to his spiritual master when he came in the assembly. Then he made the second mistake. He cut off the head of his spiritual master Vishwarup because he was giving part of his share of the sacrifice to demons. That was the second mistake. Then he cut off the head of Vitrasura, who was a devotee. That was his third mistake. And Mother Diti, who's the mother of the demons, Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, she thought that Lord Indra was the one who caused Lord Vishnu to kill her sons. So she wanted a benediction from her husband that she could kill Lord Vishnu, which is certainly a mistake. And also, there's many other stories in the Bhagavatam where demigods do make mistakes. Lord Brahma thought he was more powerful than Krishna, so he stole the cow boys. Indra was angered by Krishna, so he sent torrents of rain. So demigods, they do make mistakes in many ways. Because they're demigod means they're semi-gods, they're almost gods, but they have mixed desires, they're not pure devotees. A pure devotee doesn't make mistakes. Making mistakes is a condition that all living entities make mistakes, are illusion, have the cheating propensity, and have imperfect senses. So this applies to all living entities, not just the demigods. But the demigods, they, on Janalok, Tapalok, Mahalok, and Brahmalok, they go back to Godhead at the end of this life, their life. And on Brahmalok, there's no three modes of material nature. The people are happy, no suffering there. And their only anxiety is that people are suffering in the material world. Besides that, the other demigods are prone to make mistakes and prone to to atone for their mistakes. Any other question? He always has a question. Question man number 2.
Many people, they do suicide.
Wait, the microphone, something wrong with the microphone.
Right. Okay. You were saying that sometimes people, they do suicide and because of this material they are fed up and of this frustration or something. But when the person is born, when a person is born, and that time his death is also written, so how he will die. So is that their suicide they are doing whimsically, or it is written their destiny that he has to die by suicide, or he has to die by accident, or he has to die by cancer? What do you say about that one?
Well, actually, Sanatana Goswami went to meet Lord Chaitanya in Puri. And on the way to Puri, he contacted these itching sores, which were oozing pus and blood and smelling bad. So he decided in his mind that he would commit suicide by putting himself under the wheel of Jagannath cart, and that way attain salvation. Mahaprabhu said to him, knowing his mind, being omniscient, omnipotent, said that you cannot commit suicide because that's in the mode of ignorance. This body belongs to me, and I have so much work to do to you. So performing suicide is not part of destiny. It's not our destiny. It's a misuse of our intelligence, misuse of our independence. It's never, even in the material world, even in the world, if someone tries to commit suicide, unsuccessful, it's a criminal act. So it's not his destiny to commit suicide. That is not destiny. That's by choice. When one listens to the mind is the best friend and the worst enemy. When your mind becomes your worst enemy, your mind tells you that I should commit suicide, that will solve all my problems. But it doesn't solve your problems. It's not sanctioned. Because when you commit suicide, you have to take a ghost body. And ghosts don't have any body, but they still have material desires. So they have to suffer in that ghost body until their time when their body was supposed to die. And it's a suffering condition. It's not a happy condition or a peaceful condition. So it's never sanctioned. Ghost suicide is never recommended, except if someone's old and indolent and can't do his bhajan anymore, then he can practice fasting. Or if the wife is very chaste and faithful to the husband, then she used to be allowed to enter the fire with the husband. But that's outlawed nowadays. Nobody can do that. In only those circumstances is recommended suicide, otherwise not.
Persons die with accidents or by heart attack or by cancer or something. So what about them?
Yeah, that's your destiny. That we can't control. But we tried so many ways to cure our diseases.
You were saying that from 1 to 5, one should coddle the child and not discipline them because they don't have intelligence. But some clinical psychologists have observed that jealousy starts in the child 3 months old. Like if the mother shows affection to somebody else, the child is already 3 months and it shows symptoms of jealousy.
So what's your question?
I'm saying although intelligence doesn't develop from 1 to 5, but at 3 months, this jealousy manifests, this quality of jealousy.
Quality of what?
Jealousy.
Jealousy.
Yeah, if the mother shows affection to somebody else, the child becomes jealous.
So what's the question?
It's a comment.
Oh, it's just a comment. All right. Srila Prabhupada ki, Bhagavad-Gita ki jai. Gaura Premanande.